Welcome to the Happiness Matters podcast, where we'll explore happiness at work and show you how to coach yourself to be happier there and more successful too, no matter what.
Hello everyone, it's me again, Julia Seal, your coach and your host at Happiness Matters. How are you doing? I hope you kicked back a little last week, like Fraser and I did, to enjoy our 1-year anniversary episode, as well as some chocolate cake and Marmite scones. Did you try out those recipes? I'd love to hear from you. Of course, I also hope you've sent in your request for my coaching gift. You can find more details at Happiness-Matters.coach under Coach with Julia. What's ahead for us now are a few shorter sessions on the questions that have come up for you over the year from Series 1. And we have done Q&As before. There is a session after each of the core coaching episodes, 1.1 to 1.6, to ensure that the concepts and tools in these sessions really land for you. There's another after the How to Feel Better self-coaching process, and another at the end of the Negative Emotions mini coaching journey about ending powerlessness. They're pretty good episodes, so I'll include links to these Q&A episodes in this week's show notes. And remember, as always, you can find these and all the free coaching tools on our website, Happiness-Matters.coach. So yes, we've covered a lot of questions already, but we're collating more right now. So if you do have something you'd like clarity on, anything from Series 1, please send it to us on the website, Happiness-Matters.coach, and submit them in the Ask Julia section. This week, our first question centers around employee engagement and its links to happiness. There's some confusion on the various terms and then how everything fits together. We'll look at this from your position as a business leader, a manager, and also for yourself and your own self-coaching. Firstly, I want to clean up the words for you so it's all very clear in your mind. And then you can decide how much of them you have in your life, your employee's life, and what you want more of going forward. Engagement, flow, employee engagement, happiness. There's a great deal of articles and research studies out there, much of it using these various words interchangeably and others with very different meanings. When I first started in the field, you could type employee engagement into Google and get less than 1 page of useful search results. 1 page! I can still remember being so frustrated by the lack of material. I've just typed it in now. You're not going to believe this one. And it's giving me 448 million. So that's 4.4 billion results. Now, just to get an idea of how much that is, if I was to count from 1 to 448 million, it would take me about 21 years. So you can't know everything. Looking at engagement first. So engagement on its own rather than employee engagement. In our recent episode 1.38 on the science of happiness at work, I introduced the model of work happiness from the Greater Good Science Center at the University of Berkeley, California. Their model, PERC, sees our work happiness as having 4 pillars, of which engagement is one. So PERC is purpose, engagement, resilience, and kindness. In this model, the construct of your engagement is described as a positive, fulfilling, work-related state of mind, where you feel a strong sense of vigor towards, dedication to, and absorption in work activities. Another way of describing this internal state in us is flow, which we practiced in our self-coaching in the same episode. And flow is described as an immersive, lose track of time experience when you are in the zone. And this engagement, this flow state, is a huge contributor to your happiness. Now, employee engagement. Effectively, at its most stripped down, at its most stark, it's about your company tapping into this engaged state that you get into with your work. It's an asset for business productivity. It's about harnessing your flow state. It's about the quality and quantity of your work when you're in this zone where you're absorbed and stimulated. So much so that you'll go that extra mile to get the job done. You'll apply your discretionary effort. You'll give this precious commodity of yours to your job, to your company, over and above the contracted agreement of work between you. I agree, this is a very stripped down description. But remember, I work at the strategic level of employee engagement, where I engage you, executives and managers, on the benefits, the power of an engaged workforce. And we're looking at the bottom line, at how to increase productivity without incurring unnecessary costs. And we're looking at the return on investment. I like these three definitions in particular as a walk through the history of the field. From the conference board back in 2006, a heightened connection that an employee feels for her organization that influences her to exert greater discretionary effort to her work. From the Bill Clinton Global Initiative in 2011, to leverage the positive benefits achieved from a strong relationship between the company and its employees in order to derive greater employee discretionary effort in achieving the organization's objectives. And then from the US Chamber of Commerce in 2016, an engaged employee is someone who is willing to go above and beyond her job description to serve the interests of the organization, clients, and herself. What's evolved out of this field from trying to pin down and then influence employee motivation, employee satisfaction, employee productivity, and employee advocacy is an enormous body of work, the field of employee engagement. And this stretches into all domains of the employment experience. Every touch point that HR has with employees and every touch point that leaders and managers have with their teams. So you've got the onboarding aspect of employee engagement, career development and career pathing, reward systems, performance management systems. You've got communications and engagement activities, coaching, mentoring, and wellness. Much more. You would have got a sense of this complexity from my episode 1.39 on business consulting and the science of happiness. Looking at just two of the popular employee engagement measures by Gallup and the Great Place to Work includes all manner of things. Caring about me as a person, my opinions counting for something, trust and kindness between manager and employee, company purpose and my purpose. They all have some impact on an employee's engagement, on your engagement. And the ultimate goal of all, perhaps even the Holy Grail, is discretionary effort, where we're willing to go the extra mile, going above and beyond. This is where we're more innovative, adapting more easily to change. We're more efficient, safer on the factory floor, and consistently offer excellent customer service. This is where the benefit of engagement lies for business, the competitive edge, the power of their people. Now, where does this leave us in our happiness coaching? I like to take all these definitions of employee engagement, all the various levers we can pull on to effect improvements, and simplify everything. Reduce the noise by making it very individual, what it looks like at a personal level. This also helps us clear up the debate about the difference between happiness and engagement, and the current view that a happy employee is not necessarily an engaged one. I do this with two very simple diagrams, two models that will help you work out what your engagement looks like, where your engagement lies, and the levers for your engagement, and where your happiness lies, and where your success lies. These two models are from my consulting work with my corporate clients, but you can easily apply these to yourself. You can overlay them over yourself to see your engagement, happiness, success in more detail. And of course, you can do this when considering the individual members of your team. But it's a great exercise to do with yourself as we're practicing self-coaching. The first is the profile of engagement. What an engaged employee actually looks like. This is a Venn diagram, the one with interlinked and overlapping circles. These circles relate to your think, feel, act patterns, the ones we've been talking about through this coaching together. Hopefully you'll remember these. These patterns make up your entire life. You think a thought, this thought creates a feeling, and the feeling motivates a certain action. Think, feel, act. So one circle represents your thoughts, another your feelings, and the third your actions. And the point at which they all intersect, all three of them, is where you are fully engaged. Using your own engagement at work as an example, you think in an engaged way. So you understand and agree with your company's goals and values, and you've decided to support them. You feel in an engaged way. You feel a sense of belonging and attachment. You're even proud of your company. And then you act in an engaged way. You act in ways that are consistent with your feelings and beliefs. You apply the best you can be to your work. The intersection of all three is when you are fully engaged at all levels of your being. Think, feel, act. This is where lies the nugget of gold, the Holy Grail. Your discretionary effort, going the extra mile, going above and beyond. Now, how do we get there? How do we influence each of these aspects? Influence them if we're business leaders and managers, and shift and change them if we're doing it for ourselves. And this is where my second model comes in, the engagement equation. I've been using this engagement equation concept for years. It's adapted from a paper by Towers Perrin, and it's a wonderfully clear way to sort out all the commentary, to understand what goes where, and to put together all the ingredients we need to create this engaged think, feel, act pattern. I know there's a book out now called The Engagement Equation, which is not what I'm offering you here. So don't get distracted by searching for this magical mathematical formula. Just follow along with me now. As I go through the equation, see what it reminds you of. And a hint, think of rainbows. The equation is made up of three components that you add together in order to get engagement. They all add up to that elusive and valuable discretionary effort. The first component is your energy. So your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual energy. The second is your needs. So your need for certainty and comfort, uncertainty and variety, significance, contribution, growth, and connection. And the last is your working conditions. And there are about 10 aspects here, familiar ones that include much of what I've mentioned before. Opportunities for growth, a voice, business purpose and strategy, being well led and managed, and so on. Using this model, you can see very quickly what's missing in your engagement equation, or in the engagement equations of your team members and colleagues. Lacking physical energy, unmet need for contribution, an uninterested manager. They'll all affect your engagement equation. You'll also see where most companies are spending their efforts and energy in working conditions. Most organizations do not work directly in the areas of my energy and only somewhat address my needs purposefully. Definitely, some aspects are addressed through wellness departments, but again this tends towards remedial type interventions to fix emotional or physical issues, rather than working proactively with employees to improve my energy and my needs. And truly, most organizations do not see this as part of their remit. They just send employees on external emotional intelligence training courses in the hope that this will solve everything. And many line managers actively steer away from employees' personal lives. Most importantly, from looking at the engagement equation, you'll see the whole self here. Your whole self needing to be involved in your engagement. Taking a step back to ask ourselves about the difference between happiness and engagement, what does this equation remind you of? Think back to the entire Series 1 coaching on defining, assessing, and visioning your happiness. Think back to artisanal happiness and shokunin happiness. Think back to rainbows, to whole being happiness, to the science of happiness with SPIRE and whole being. This interdisciplinary academic approach defines happiness as the experience of whole person well-being, of whole being. And it's inspired by Helen Keller. The only definition of happiness is wholeness. And the model for whole being is the SPIRE framework, the SPIRE rainbow of happiness, where SPIRE is spiritual whole being, physical whole being, intellectual whole being, relationship whole being, and emotional whole being. Can you see how it all fits together for you, SPIRE, whole being, the engagement profile, and the engagement equation? Can you see now that the debate between happiness and engagement, are they the same or not, depends entirely on how we define happiness, as a hedonic state of pleasurable emotions or as a whole being state of artisanal shokunin happiness. Now, just for your interest, this is where I work in my consulting, the new frontier in employee engagement. This new frontier is the joint venture of engagement happiness. And it's twofold. Now, we love our jargon. It involves going above and beyond the business as usual scope of an organization's remit in driving engagement to address the previously untouched aspects of the individual's engagement equation. So for each consulting client, we answer the question, how involved can our organization be in the personal? Can our organization influence my energy? How to leverage what we know about the impact of whole being happiness on the individual and the so-called work-life divide. And then it's about self-driven employee engagement, self-driven by employees themselves. So I move away from current views on who is responsible for employee engagement or happiness, the company, management, the individual, and all the implications this has for the abuse of rank, role, and power, for powerlessness and victimhood, and staying stuck in emotional childhood. Rather, it's about embracing the whole equation through the whole being happiness lens, which makes it a joint venture between individual and company. And the question then becomes, how can we empower employees to own their own happiness, their own engagement at work? And of course, how do I fully own my own engagement at work and in my life? Now you know where my passion for sharing how to coach yourself comes from. Sharing the skills to own your own engagement and to own your happiness. So exciting, isn't it? I hope this little deep dive cleared up the questions about how flow, engagement, employee engagement, and happiness all work together. It's also been a lot of fun for me to talk to you a little bit more about my employee engagement work, to show you how it links up to the coaching and self-coaching we're doing here on Happiness Matters, and why I'm even doing this podcast, so that we can all be happier, more engaged, and more successful at work on our own terms. If you do want to work with me through any of the topics from today, please visit Happiness-Matters.coach. Next week, we'll look at your happiness and success and how they work together. Because as you know, we're always saying here at Happiness Matters, happy and successful no matter what. Remember to send your questions on any of the coaching we've done to date to Ask Julia, also on the website. May you be happy. May you be free. There is no better time to do this coaching together. Bye for now from lockdown Cape Town, watching May's supermoon rise over the Fynbos.
Thanks for joining us on this Happiness Matters podcast. Do join us again here next week on Tuesday. You can subscribe to this series at Apple Podcasts on iTunes, or you can sign up for it on our website, Happiness-Matters.coach. That's Happiness-Matters.coach. COACH. Also, you can join our conversation on Facebook by following us there. Our Facebook page is also Happiness-Matters.coach.